Caroline from Rock Show Addiction, and I'm here with Rick of This Is Hell. So you guys have gone on record for speaking to other publications and saying that your new album has a more distinctive metal feel to it.
Yes.
So did you guys like make a conscious decision to change up your sound? Or
no.
No?
It was kind of the last record, Way of the World, was heading that direction a little bit, but it was just kind of what came out. So when we started writing this record, it was like the same thing. It was just kind of became super, super metal. And I was like demoing stuff, and I showed it to the other guys. I was like, this is like super, super metal. It's like, you know, very Metallica and Megadeth and Slayer-ish. Yeah. So I was like, oh, it's kind of weird, right? And they're like, no, it rules. I was like, cool, because I was totally into it. So it was just kind of, hey, this is what we're doing now.
Awesome. So do you guys prefer being on bills with similar sounding bands, or are you guys more fans of being on eclectic tours like this one and the AP Fall Tour, which you did like last fall?
Both. You know, if you do all of just one, it gets stale.
Okay, so someone called you guys out at the Pomona show and said you look like the Jonas Brothers the other night.
Really?
Yeah, you didn't hear that?
No.
Yeah, someone was like, you guys look like the Jonas Brothers, and you're like, oh, you're making me blush.
Oh, that was probably Travis. Because I would have said something like meaner.
No, you guys were pretty nice about it. But if you guys could cover any boy band song and turn it into a hardcore song, which song would you pick and why?
I'd probably pick a New Kids on the Block song, because that's probably the only thing I would really know. Like, I know that other bands like that exist, but I'm like too old for that. But I mean, I know New Kids on the Block songs because I was like an 8-year-old at the time. That was like the big thing in my school, yeah. And like all the girls, they're like, oh, New Kids on the Block, and I'm like, oh, listen to Guns N' Roses. But I don't know, you know how like you kind of glorify anything from your childhood, whether you liked it or not at the time. Not that I'm like listening to New Kids on the Block, but I mean, I totally know all their songs. I know all their names. I have like the big pins and stuff.
You're wearing one of their shirts right now.
Yeah, this is a new. I'm sorry if I ruined that question.
Okay, so what is it like being one of the most diverse artists on the Rise Records roster? And if you do you guys prefer being in a band that stands out among the likes of of Mice and Men and Attack Attack?
Yeah. I mean, like I said before, it kind of goes into the thing of we would never change or make a decision to placate anything, and that goes even double for like record label type of things. First off, that's never a thing. People think that like record labels have this like influence over their bands, like, oh, now you have to sound like this. And, you know, we've been on a bunch of different labels, different types of labels too, and no label has ever said anything about like, oh, you should try this, you should try this. If anything, it's like, oh man, this record's really good. Too bad people don't, you know, buy music of bands like This Is Hell, or people don't buy records of This Is Hell. But I think it's cool standing out on a label, because I'd rather do that than be like just like 1 of 10, you know. Now it's kind of like, oh, well, you have this band, this band, this band, this band all sound similar, and it's like, oh, what the fuck is this? Oh, sorry, can I say?
Yes, you can.
You know, what is This Is Hell doing on this label? You know, as opposed to like if we were on a label with all bands that sound just like us, you know, that's not really any fun so much. It's easy to get lost in a shuffle, but to a certain extent, it doesn't really make that much of a difference, because, like I said, we're not like a record-selling band per se. You know, people come to our shows and, you know, get wild sometimes and headbang around and, you know, circle pit, but those are also the kids that are, you know, sneaking in the back and complaining if we play a show that's over $5. Got totally off the topic of that question.
No worries.
But you know, I think if there's anything we have a good time with is kind of not fitting in. Not like we're going out of our way, hey, we're so different. But, you know, we enjoy our individuality, whether that's on a bill or on a record label or like on a compilation CD. They even make compilation CDs anymore?
Yeah, like Warped Tour.
Okay, yeah, well.
Okay, so what's the inspiration behind the cover art of Black Mass, like with the Statue of Liberty and the snakes and all that stuff?
It's funny, it kind of came out of lyrics from one of the songs, but there's some direct lyrics from the song The Last Outlaw, which is kind of a metaphor between the attitudes of certain bands. How sometimes people think they're special because they start a band, and like they do a lot of like building their own egos. Oh, we're making big moves. We're gonna do this. We're gonna sign with this label. We're going on tour with this band, and like this band really wants to take us on tour. We're really important, and that's so bullshitty. Especially like when it's people I grew up with in the hardcore scene, who all of a sudden think that they're this like entity, where it's like, dude, you're a couple hardcore kids playing in a band, just like everybody else. Everybody and their brother, like, oh, I'm in a band, like, big deal. You know what I mean? So it was kind of a metaphor, especially the whole New York imagery of how people come out of something pure and just desecrate it, with like their own ego and like politics. And there's a lot of talks of on the record with I said like that, with egos and kind of ruining stuff that's pure. And the way like the Statue of Liberty and there's religious overtones and undertones on the cover that also make it into the record and different songs, whether it's metaphoric or direct. It kind of goes back and forth, but just the whole taking something pure and turning it into not even just a mockery of itself, but something kind of just like evil. So that all kind of came together within different lyrics, pulled from this song, that song, the other song, into the art.
That's awesome. What would you say is your favorite song off that album?
That's rough. It kind of changes, I did like a lot of listening to the demos before we recorded it, and then the initial, once the record was done, like, oh my god, it's so awesome, let's listen to it all the time. I would tend to say The Wars Part 1 is one of my favorites, but Black Mass, the song, I still get like a huge kick out of, like musically and lyrically and vocally. I'd probably pick one of those two. We have a song on the record called Black History, which I also, musically, it's something that, like, when I was writing that, I was like, I kind of want to try to write something like without like a mosh part per se. I don't want the song to rely on mosh parts and rely on kind of gimmicks. I kind of wanted to go to work on something that was kind of structured a little more almost like early 90s like Metallica, Megadeth style. Not musically, but just structurally. Yeah. That was something I tried to do before, just in passing, but was never able to do in like a metal song. So I was like really happy with that. So I appreciate that very much on that song also.
Awesome! I can't wait to hear it. But who was the biggest ladies man in this house?
Ladies man? Ugh.
You're gonna say you?
No, it's definitely not me. That's hard to say. I mean, two of the guys have girlfriends. I don't really talk to anybody I don't know, let alone girls, for the sake of like being the ladies' man.
No cute girls at your shows?
I don't think girls come to our shows. I think girls come to shows
with their boyfriends.
Or boys don't come to our shows either. At hardcore shows, they sit home and talk shit about us on the internet. I mean, girls will come to a show like this because it's not our show, and they'll be like, "What the fuck is this band think they're doing on stage? Why is that kid spitting?" Yeah, so I would probably pick none of us. We're not that type of band. You know what I mean? Like, if the point of going on tour for me was to like get girls, I like wouldn't be playing this style of music. I'd be playing like something super glossy and writing lyrics about bullshit that doesn't matter. Oh, if I was trying to get girls, I would never look like that. I don't understand. To each his own, I guess. But people look like that. What the fuck are you thinking?
I know. Apparently, that's what's odd.
It sure is, but that's fine. I'm fine being on the other side of the fence. I
looking like a dude, actually.
I kind of like looking like a dude a bit, but
Probably a good thing.
I mean, people can look how they want and do what they want, but I'm happy with not being that.
So do you have any funny stories of when you guys were working with your producer, Thomas Costanza?
Yeah. All right, I'll try to pick one that's not like stupid or not too stupid. I'm like huge into wrestling, like professional wrestling, which goes another reason why I'm like not the ladies' man of the band. So one of our friends was passing through town, dude from Chicago named Chris Hero. He's like in Ring of Honor. Ring of Honor is a bit of a big deal, and Chris Hero is like awesome. So anyway, he stops by the studio and we're hanging out, and there's like a huge pool in the studio, in the back of the studio, because it's in Hollywood and everything in Hollywood's like super Hollywood.
Yeah.
So we're hanging out in the pool, and Tomas just thinks that we're hanging out with our friend. Well, we are just hanging out with a friend, but he's like, that guy's big. We're like, yeah, he's a wrestler. He's like, oh my god, that's awesome. So like, oh, we're gonna go watch him wrestle tomorrow. He's like, you want to come? He's like, yeah, I've never been before, and he hung out with them, so everyone's like, oh, we're friends, it's cool. So it's at like a tiny little like VFW lodge type deal, so it's like the wrestling equivalent to a hardcore show. So we bring Tomas there, and he's like, I've never seen wrestling live, and he's like, has no idea what to expect. So we bring him in there, and there's like crazy people. Like I said, it's like a hardcore show. It's like crazy people. There's like no barrier. There's just like the ring, and then people sitting there. And the first match we see, it's like a tag match, so there's like little dudes just flying all over the place, like jumping over the top rope, getting in the crowd, and he's standing up right away like, oh my god, dude, did you see that? I'm like, yeah, man, this is independent wrestling. And his mind was just blown the entire time. So he went into it totally like a virgin, and by the end, he's like up at the front yelling, yo, do something crazy! And it No one blacked out, but they did some crazy shit. And Chris Hero had a great match, as usual, because he's a ring general.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was cool.
So lastly, tell everyone why they should check out This Is Hell.
I would say check out This Hell because we're a very real band. We don't pull any punches. Whether that's speaking directly about somebody or just directly about a situation. I think that's something that's lacking in modern music. Especially in an underground thing where that should kind of be what everybody does. Like that's kind of the point of it being underground, because in the mainstream, they don't want you to tell the truth. You know what I mean? They want everything to be like glossy, and they want everything to be directed towards making money and selling and buy, as in purchase. Not a Backstreet Boys song?
No, NSYNC. Close.
New Kids on the Block song? But I feel like the underground is turning into that a little bit also, or a bit also, and that drives me crazy. I've spoken about that a lot in other interviews. People ask about like lyrics, and I talk about how this album, more than any other album, we actually like talk about things more than like, oh, I hate this person, or that's pissing me off, or whatever, which is all valid. We spent a lot of time on other records talking about, depression. I thought that was very important too, like a lot of people kind of feel alienated if they're like depressed, and it turns into a thing where like it gets worse because they don't want people to know. There's a stigma behind it. So, that was very important for us to express at the time also. But we talk about social things on this album a bit, and it's not some, political rhetoric, but it's just kind of, hey, this is what I'm feeling, this is pissing me off, and, maybe you should pay attention to this, and maybe you should pay attention to this. And we're not talking about, banging girls and, oh, we're getting drunk and partying. And, there's always room for, bands like Motley Crue. I love Motley Crue. You want to talk about partying, going to strip clubs? That's rad. But I couldn't, in good conscience, have a platform and use that platform. If we play a show to 30 kids, like, I treasure the fact that there's 30 kids listening to what we're saying. So, we're playing a show here where, probably 30 kids never even heard of us, but we're playing to, 3 or 4 or 5 or 600 kids. Like, let's kind of say something important. Let's try to open some eyes and ears and stuff. And I think that's a thing a lot of bands kind of like, oh, well, people don't want to hear that. They want to hear about partying. So let's sing about partying, and dancing. And that's so bullshitty to me. Like I said, to each his own, but at the same time, like, maybe I'm getting old. I'm 31 years old, so maybe it's like, oh, I don't have fun doing things anymore, so I can't talk about fun. But
it's definitely good when there's purpose behind it.
Exactly. It makes me feel like I'm doing something important, and it also makes me like I could actually have fun doing what I'm doing. We go up there and we have so much fun, and we'll bullshit with the crowd and be dicks and have a good time. But like when it comes to like, all right, we're gonna fuck around between songs, like, hey, everybody have a good time. But like when it comes down to like what we're saying and what we're playing, like we're dead ass serious, and that's all about like we're trying to get a message across, and we're trying to express ourselves and just be real and just kind of hammer it out, So I think that's something that we bring to the table that a lot of other bands aren't bringing to the table nowadays.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.